Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio, broadcasting live from deep inside the heart of the future Liberty State. Brought to you once again by On Fire Ministries, in the legacy of Dr. Stan Monteith, bringing you the story behind the story and the news behind the news, where it's not about right or left, it's about right and wrong. It's about our hope not being in man, but in Jesus Christ. About not ending in prayer, but moving to action. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Father, deliver us from the evil one.
Welcome to Patriot Radio.
The episode that you're about to hear and to watch was recorded on March 25th, this past Monday. The following day is when a ship ran into the support structure and collapsed the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. General Flynn mentions during this episode a Black Swan event. In a tweet today, the day the bridge collapsed, he says, "This is a Black Swan." Good afternoon, this is Matt Shea, and today on Patriot Radio for the entire hour, or almost anyway, General Michael Flynn will be with us. And remember, here our goal on Patriot Radio is to give you the most accurate information so you and your family can be prepared for the events that are about to happen, and indeed, the events that are already upon us. No fear, we were made for this. Our summer of harvest continues, and as it does, I would ask you that you subscribe to us on Rumble. Make that your default platform, especially with all the censorship going on right now. And also follow us on Telegram, On Fire Ministries on Telegram, where we have real-time intelligence feeds. And if you want to know what's going on right in the moment, go there. And we have the news breaking, usually 30 minutes to an hour before the mainstream media is even caught up. Our Bible teaching today is coming to us from James chapter 2, verse 26. For just as the body without the spirit is dead, so also faith without works is dead. Now, I want to speak into this very clearly right now as Christians. There has been this idea that we're going to wait for some person to save us. Well, Jesus Christ has already saved us. We are walking in victory. But if we are temples of the Holy Spirit, each one of us, that means Jesus is within us. He's in our midst. As he said in Luke 17, we are supposed to be active in our faith. We are the plan. I'm going to say that again. We are the plan. We're not waiting for somebody. We're the plan. We're supposed to be out and moving. We're supposed to be out and following the lead of the Holy Spirit in our lives. And this is what our country needs right now. Indeed, if we're going to return to that former place that we were as a country, it's going to take all of us, every man, every woman, every child. It's going to take all three generations, the Abraham generation, the Isaac generation, and the Jacob generation. It is going to take everything that we have and everything that we are, and putting all of that down at the foot of the cross, surrendering, yielding every part of our lives, every part of our humanity. And we will see revival, and then we will see reformation. I sincerely believe that America turns around in an instant, that these slogans about America being saved in a day, Washington being saved in a day, Spokane being saved in a day, it's not just a slogan. This is a reality if we turn our hearts toward him and put him back on the throne where he belongs. We have an opportunity, a historic opportunity this year to stand, but it means all of us have to stand to become once again that beacon on a hill to become that lamp on a lampstand, shining for all the world to see, to honor the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, blood bought and blood born, and continued by the sacrifice of the many dead patriots that have kept this republic up unto this day. Will we honor that sacrifice? Will we be that light so that freedom and liberty continues for the next generation? Well, that's a question each one of us has to answer. And tonight, when you're around the dinner table with your family, answer it as a family. Declare it with your mouth. Be part of this historic moment. Don't be on the sidelines. In Jesus' name, amen. I also want to bring up a couple events. Right now, we are in this time of standing. Well, you have an opportunity to stand with us on April 13th at the Washington State Capitol in Olympia, and also happening all over the country at all the state capitals, all at the same time. Fellow patriots and Christians coming together to stand, to pray, to fast, and to speak life into our states in this momentous time in history. And then coming up on April 25th, General Michael Flynn will be with us here at On Fire Ministries in Spokane, Washington, to screen his movie, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. And the following day, and then on Saturday, the 27th, America's Future will be here training, bringing awareness, showing us how to stop child exploitation and human trafficking. Plenty of opportunities to get in the fight. The question is, will it be you? And I say yes, and the answer is amen. And that brings us now to our guest today, General Michael Flynn. He's a national best-selling author, including his latest books, A Citizen's Guide to Fifth-Generation Warfare and How to Fight AI. He holds 3 master's degrees, but most importantly, along with all the awards that he holds, he's a patriot, he is a husband, and he's a grandfather who wants to see the Republic continue for another generation. General Flynn, it is great to have you on Patriot Radio. Blessings to you and welcome.
Thank you, Pastor. That's great. And I appreciate you talking about the film. And we'll be up there in the great Northwest here on a couple of different days. I know, in fact, I was just looking at it before I coming in here. We're looking at our
April 25th.
Ticket sales. Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I just can't wait. I appreciate you also talking up the other part of my life, which is involved in anti-child trafficking. And the nonprofit that I have called America's Future is one of the oldest. In fact, it's probably the oldest nonprofit in the country before there was even such a thing as nonprofits. And America's Future, the big project that we are involved in is Project Defend and Protect Children. And we're going to be up there in your neck of the woods to not only speak to the various audiences that we'll have up there, but we also bring in law enforcement, and we bring in the district attorneys. We also bring in people from the state to talk about some of the laws that are in effect, or the ones that we're trying to push across the country, like this business about anti-grooming, and anything that a red line for me, I guess, in my life is anything that harms a child, and that's a big red line, and that's why. The nonprofit that I'm responsible for, America's Future, we've got involved in this, and we're going to go to all 50 states. A couple of the states we're going to do a couple of times, like Texas and California, just because of the sheer magnitude. Up in New York, probably a couple. But we've been to 5 or 6 now, and our next big one is going to be up there in Washington. So we want to make sure the people of Washington that there's a reason why I'm doing 2 of the movie events up there, partly because I think the people of Washington State and the great Northwest, I've been up there a couple of times. Recently, over the last couple of years, we brought our Reawaken America tour up there. And there's great people up there. This movie, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost, it's a stunning movie. Actually, I think people are going to be blown away when they see it. The subtitle is "Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost." And trust me, to you and your audience, that it's going to cost me. It's going to cost me again because I'm going to put out things that have not been told before, and this is not just leaning against one particular party or element. This is about the corruption inside of our government at all levels and with all parties and with people. And I do call out some people in this thing because it's necessary to not just keep saying they, right? Those people. No, the deep state has faces and names, and they need to be called out, and they need to be taken to task. And the American people, I think if there's anything that our founders taught us really two principles. One, among giving us a bunch of good ones, but they taught us two things. One is courage, the idea of courage. And they made the decision to be courageous at a time when they could have all just backed off and allowed the monarch of the King of England to just continue to rule their lives. But they made the decision to be courageous. The second thing that they taught us that we have carried forward as a nation is the idea of accountability to ourselves and to each other and to a system of law that is supposed to be equal for all, right? All men, right? Equal, justice for all, right? I mean, so those principles, the ideas of courage and accountability are so paramount. And frankly, we need courageous leaders today. I mean, you just said it at the beginning about, folks, and one of the things that I try to do, I want to give people options to get involved. You cannot sit down any longer seeing what we're seeing in our country and feeling what we all feel. We all feel it. We all see it. I'm an example of what they'll do to somebody. Donald J. Trump is an example of how far they'll go, how high they will go to attack. And then all of the people that are still being persecuted for like the J6, protests that happened. I mean, these people don't need to be in jail for 17, 15 years if they trespassed. I mean, my God, when they're allowing, you guys saw it up in the state of Washington with Antifa and Black Lives Matter. So you got me on my soapbox there, Pastor, but I just, I want you to know that we're very excited about coming up there. I can't wait till we get up there. I know we're going to be in a couple of different places, and I'm just excited about being up there. We're actually driving around the country, so I'm going to hit 35 cities in about 55 days, but it shows you how far I'm willing to go. Right, I'm willing to go all the way to your neck of the woods because I want people up in that part of the country to know that you still matter. You matter to me. You matter to our country, and we're not going to we cannot say, the left coast, because we know the left coast, there's only small parts, and we know that our elections are, our elections are filled with fraud, we have to hold ourselves accountable. In order to hold ourselves accountable, we have to participate in this citizen government, right? That's what we have. We have a constitutional republic. So anyways, I'll step down off my soapbox right now and give it back to you.
Well, General, we're so excited to have you up here. When you were up here with the Reawaken America tour, it was very, very well attended. I think we had 6,000 people there, and a lot of patriots, a lot of Irish patriots up here still in the Pacific Northwest. But I want to talk about this idea about being involved. There is so many opportunities to be involved, and I believe that we are still the majority here in the United States. But there's been this attack constant. We see it in the church. We see it in the political realm. I was a legislator for 12 years. They viciously attacked me at every possible point they could. And it was always whether people were going to show up or not. And this QAnon nonsense, sit on the couch, there's a plan. No, we are the plan. And I would love it if you would talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so much noise about this. People have to live by what they actually see in front of them, facts, right? The things that are happening. I mean, the price of a gallon of gas, the cost of a loaf of bread, how much it takes to put a gallon of milk in your refrigerator these days. I mean, a dozen eggs nationwide is 3 times higher than it was only 3 years ago, right? I mean, this is insane. What they're doing to Donald Trump. Anybody that has a sliver, and anybody that believed in it, the whole thing was a master propaganda campaign. But anybody that has a sliver that thinks for a second that Donald Trump or Mike Flynn are going to allow either of our families to go through the persecution that we have gone through because there's some grand scheme plan and the military's in charge, they're out of their minds. And the churches, because this is what happens, guys like you, guys like me from different bearings, they're going to attack us. So I've been labeled a white racist Christian nationalist, right? I mean, to the point where it's almost laughable. But there's also a movement in this country. There is a movement within the Christian community, and I do the quotes around Christian community, because they're going to say, well, we must keep the church and state separated. That's nonsense. That's total nonsense. And so I'm a Christian nationalist. So what does that mean? That I'm a believer? That I'm a Catholic? I'm a Catholic. I'm an Irish kid that grew up in a large Catholic family. I went to early days. I attended a Catholic school. I used to be an altar boy for a while. Hell, I was in the choir for Christ's sakes. And then, I got beat by a shillelagh by an Irish priest who's still actually alive today. He's been, McCarthy, Monsignor McCarthy. He's a great, great American, and he's still alive, which is amazing. And I mean, all these things, and our founders in the very First Amendment, there's 5 parts. Most people don't know that. People think the First Amendment, freedom of speech, right? Actually, no. There's 5 parts in the First Amendment. And the very first part, which I know because I've read the Federalist Papers and I've read the writings of our founders, why did they put sort of those 5 parts in the First Amendment, 1.1 is the freedom of religion. Not that speech comes next, right? The freedom to practice your faith, the freedom to practice your religion. They argued about that because they wanted to make sure that there was always a connection between what we know is in our Declaration of Independence, the idea of the Creator. Okay, and I mean that word is in the Declaration 4 times, actually 5 if you include the word Lord, because it's signed under the day of our Lord in the in the year that it was signed. So I mean, our founders wanted a constant connection between the founding Judeo-Christian principles and values that our country was formed up on. That's the very first thing in the very first Bill of Rights, the very First Amendment of our Bill of Rights. That is a promise that we make to each other, in addition to the ability to peaceably protest, peaceably assemble, the idea to be able to speak freely. And then you get into the other promises, the other first 10 amendments, right? I mean, that's what people need to understand about our country. And one of the things that I do want to just talk a little bit about this movie, because we are coming up there. I am coming up there. I'm going to spend the better, half a week up there with the Washingtonians, right? The people of Washington. And I got great friends up there in the military, former military guys, and some that are still up there at the, they call it Lewis McChord now, right? But, Yakima up in the training area. I've been up into those places, and I love Washington. I love the people up there. I mean, we are a hardy nation. We are a big nation. We are a nation of freedom-loving patriots. And we are now being, attempted to be controlled by a body of people in Washington, D.C., who have taken control of select state capitals through various means, through our election systems. And I think a lot of it's sort of like, so what were the symptoms, or how did that happen? It happened because as citizens, we just said, well, those politicians, they're a bunch of bums, and then we would vote them back in. Right now, I have on my desk, and I didn't bring it in here, but I'm studying it because I I'm making a big deal as we go into the elections of 2024. You'll hear me talk about it like I'm talking about on this show right now. Voting turnout in this country is abysmal. Voting turnout, okay?
It's crazy.
And we've been talking about voting turnout every election. We got to get the vote out, And yet we still are, for primaries, we're finishing up the primaries for the presidency of the United States, and we're less than 40% turnout. Okay, Donald Trump might win by 80%, but it's less than 40% turnout. The general elections, and I thought I was going to be a little bit higher. We're actually down around 60% turnout in this country for the president of the United States. And I say this to groups of people. Sometimes I ask people in an audience, how many teachers I have here, right? And they, some number raise their hand. And I say, well, if you were going to give a 60 or a 65 score on a test, what would that be in terms of a letter grade? And it's like an F, right? It's an F or it's a D. It's a failing grade. So America, and as I'm telling you and your audience, we are getting a failing grade for participating and making sure that those people that are running our country are the people that we want, that we the people want, not what they decide. And when they decide, because they will decide in some of these places in our country. And then what we have is what we're facing right now, which is, I feel, and I pray. I still say it's the most powerful weapon system known to man.
It is.
I pray that we wake up soon enough and everybody realizes I better do something. I better get involved because I got children, grandchildren, and when we focus on the future, if we don't do this, we're going to lose this country. And the one thing, I am a student of history and world history and U.S. history. I'm not an expert, but I've studied enough. And you mentioned that I have 3 master's degrees. One of them is in that. So I say that in the arc of history, good always triumphs over evil. But, big but, there are periods of time when that arc is extended. And it can be like the Ottoman Empire, 1,400 years, the Russian Empire, 1,000 years. So are we going into a period of darkness where good will eventually prevail, but are we starting to move into a period of darkness where the sleeping giant, so to speak, is truly asleep, and then we don't awaken and get involved and do the things that we know we're supposed to do as good citizens of a constitutional republic? So I'll stop there for a second, take a breath.
Well, and as a pastor, I want to just speak directly into this, that Christians, so Orthodox, Catholics, and Protestants, make up the largest voting bloc in the United States of America. It's also the largest voting bloc that's not even registered to vote. And it's also the largest voting bloc that is registered to vote, but that doesn't vote. We ask the question why these things are happening in America, and it is absolutely on the shoulders of Christians not standing up in this time. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. And then kind of more personal to me, do we not want to honor the sacrifice? I know you've lost friends in combat. I lost friends in combat in the army in Iraq. Do we not honor the sacrifice of those who gave the last full measure of devotion for this great nation?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the other things that we have to recognize is this idea of sacrifice. The idea that sacrifice is such an individual and personal endeavor, because every individual that has fought on any battlefield for our country, whether it's at away on a foreign battlefield for people that they don't know, they'll never meet, and frankly they don't even care that we're there, or it's a battlefield right here at home, in our own U.S. Civil War, where I think the numbers are staggering. There's still, I think, 655,000 dead in that war. Those individual decisions by people, because somebody, you can get mustered into the military, but how you operate, what you do, it doesn't mean that you have to go. When you sign up for the military, you're signing up to give your life for our country. And I think that that's the greatest thing. It's like, you just said something that Abraham Lincoln said is the last true measure of devotion in the cause of a nation, right? In the cause to protect our nation. So it's all of that. It's sacrifice. Sacrifice, it takes a decision to be made by every single individual. When I think about Christians in this country, especially the pastoral community who are supposed to be leaders. So the numbers that you just highlighted, or what I just talked about with voter turnout, I mean, that tells me everything about some of the leaders that we have in the Christian community, whether they're the lay leaders or whether they're actual pastors or priests or ministers or whatever, the clergy. I mean, they're obviously not pushing people to make the decisions. And these are why we have a horrible batting average for our school systems, especially our public school systems. We got a horrible batting average for voter turnout. We had abortion for 40 years, right? Which was an unconstitutional decision in 1973. It was a Supreme Court decision. It was unconstitutional. It took 40 years to overturn the unconstitutional decision at that level, to kick it back to the states. And now states, and your state is one of them, that is trying to fight to keep this thing. So we cannot have people talking about the Bible and talking about Christ and talking about all this greatness of who we are as Christians without fighting for these principles, without standing there. There is no separation of church and state. There is no separation of church and state in our country, not in our Constitution, not in our republic. And any pastor that starts to talk about that is running a business and not running a church, and not protecting what's right and good about who we are as a godlike type of citizenry. I mean, we're formed in the shape of God, right? We are imperfect humans, but my God, we have got to realize this. And if we don't, we're going to be in that, what I call that arc of history, right? That arc of history. And if we are in that period of that arc that takes a long time for good to prevail, that's a long time. And that can be multiple generations. And I say that we use this phrase, freedom is not free, or another phrase, courage is contagious. Amen. Well, freedom, obviously it's not free. Freedom requires a sacrifice. It requires great sacrifice, as we were just highlighting about the men and women who have served in our armed forces overseas, principally, and been killed because of their love of country, not because of their hate of an enemy. And then the idea of courage. Yes, courage is contagious, but courage is also a decision. I can tell you that the heroes on any battlefield that I'm aware of, that I've studied or I've seen, the heroes on those battlefields, they're the most unlikeliest people. They are not the ones that you think that's so-and-so's a hero. General Flynn's a hero. No, it's the most unlikely person. And that unlikely person becomes a champion for a moment because they made a decision out of love. They made a decision not because they hate something. If nobody that's courageous, that's ever demonstrated the type of sacrifice that a true hero has ever given, especially when they've given their life, they don't do it because they hate something. They do it because they love something. They love their own family that they left behind. They are thinking about their children or their child at that moment, or they're thinking about how their community is going to feel about them and how do they act during a time of great strife. And they take it upon themselves, and you look and you go, holy crap, where did that come from? That's what we need in this country. And I know that there's members of your audience that are watching this right now, that I want them to think about themselves and say, can I be that champion? Am I capable of being that champion? Am I capable of making that decision? Or do I know people like that need a little bit of encouragement? Because that's what I want at the end of the day. I want people to go out and look for them. The child trafficking thing that we talked about, that's why we're going around the country. We're going around the country looking for champions for children. That's what I want to find. They're not going to be the people that are the leaders of communities. No, they're going to be moms and dads and children in some cases, young adults that are going, hey, I was abused as a kid. I'm not going to have this. Members of our team that we bring in. So when we bring in members of our team into your community, we will bring in members of our team that were abused as children. And now they're adults and they have been able to mentally and intellectually overcome this. And now they're trying to help to understand and recognize what it is that we're up against. And you're going to be surprised on that account, as well as what the movie, FlynnMovie.com portrays.
And I want to highlight this. You said, we're moving from prayer to action. That's really what we have to do as a country. But the real enemy is here. We don't have to look outside. I mean, the president of Mexico is lecturing us on tradition and morals here the other day that I know what's wrong with America. It's you're not honoring your traditions, your culture, and your morals. The Chinese Academy, the Beijing Academy of Sciences had a report, said we've studied your economy and your politics and your economics. And what we discovered is it's your religion, Christianity, that has made you so great. It's like everybody else knows what the solution is here, but we're almost flying blind. And the enemy, as you said the other day, is here in the United States. The greatest threat we face is internal to the United States. How bad is it, General? And actually, I want to roll the video real quick of Ron Paul and you saying something here in just the last few days. Go ahead and roll that clip, sir.
We're reaching this point where some sudden thing is going to happen. I believe in that theory of the black swan.
Yes.
It's going to pop up, and it's not going to be controllable. But people, you ask, what can they do? I think the most important thing is understand what's going on.
And then you had a similar comment warning the United States about an event coming. So we know the solution, at least everybody on the outside knows it. We know the solution is to honor our culture, honor our traditions, be a moral people again, honor the Constitution of the United States and our founding fathers and their vision. What do you think is in the offing here, General?
Yeah, in 1838, at the age of 28 years old, 1838, at the age of 28 years old, Abraham Lincoln gave a speech called the Lyceum Speech. People can go look it up. Lyceum, L-Y-C-E-U-M, Lyceum Speech, at the age of 28. In that speech, he talked about that no foreign foe, no foreign enemy will ever take a drink from the Ohio or take a step on the Blue Ridge with a Napoleon Bonaparte for a commander. In fact, we will die by our own suicide in this country. Okay? Now, pretty damn close to words to that effect he gave in that speech.
That's right.
And he was right. That we will never be conquered from afar. We will be destroyed by our own internal mechanisms because we've allowed it to happen. So if the Mexican leader is decrying us because of our moral ineptitude or our decay, and the Chinese look at us and look at our economy, our military, all the things that we do, our capitalism, and they say the strength of America is this binding like a big thick book, like the Bible itself. This binding that holds a great Bible together is called, it's this Christian ideology, this Christianity that we were really formed upon. Another great speech is to go look at the speech of 1630 by a guy by the name of Winthrop. Pastor Winthrop became the first mayor of Boston. Fascinating speech. Look it up. 1630. He coined the term New England, and he also used a phrase out of the Bible from Matthew he used the phrase city on a hill for the first time really since that I can find in any speeches given. And of course, Ronald Reagan then added the word shining city on a hill. I mean, we will continue to be this great, great nation if we find our roots in Christianity and find our roots in God and in the faith. It doesn't mean that if you don't have my faith, then you can't be a good American. No, they didn't say in the First Amendment, the freedom of being a Christian or the freedom of being a Jew or the freedom of being a Lutheran. It said the freedom of religion, to practice a religion the way you want to practice it.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I accept that you might not accept, but I don't I'm not gonna accept people who want to destroy this country. So I'll finish with this, Pastor, that we are now led by a group of people who have no conscience. They might say, in this case, I'm talking specifically about Biden, who says he's a Catholic. Yeah, that is so far from however he actually operates, right?
Right.
But it's not just him. It's not just him. These are soulless, dark people who believe in the idea of socialism and Marxism and communism. That's it. I mean, it's that simple. So it's not like, well, these are just bad Democrats. No, these are people who want to take our country away from God. They want to take our country away from this system of government that we have called a constitutional republic, and they want to recreate a government. They want to fundamentally change America. And their plan is to do it, and they hold the levers of power. So this is why if Americans rise, right? Americans always rise to the sound, right? When things happen, Americans always arise. So now Americans have to say to ourselves, look, individually, we have to say to ourselves, I'm going to get up, I'm going to get off the couch, I'm going to move outside and get out of my house, and I'm going to go find something to get involved in that is going to be good for my community, good for the leadership of my community that are actually doing something. And I'm going to get involved in a much, much deeper way. If nothing else, if it's your church isn't working for you, go find another church. If we can't get the voting up in this country by Christians, if we can't get Christians to register, if we can't get Christians to vote, we deserve what God's punishment will be. Sorry, and maybe that, in a sort of my I can always hear my mother whispering in my ear, when we were kids, growing up, something would happen and say, well, it's God's way of telling you, you better, be a better person. And man, maybe this is God's way of saying there's such moral decay in the United States of America, and I'm giving you one last chance. I'm whispering in your ear like my mother used to whisper in my ear. And I'm telling you, you better pay attention, you better wake up, and you better smarten up, and you better speak up, because now is the time, or forever hold your peace or your tongue, like they say in a wedding, right? Then they say in a marriage. We are married to freedom in this country. And if we don't realize that we have to protect that freedom, then we don't deserve that freedom. And that's what I believe.
If we let evil in, we're going to get the results and the consequences of evil. But if we stand against it and drive it out, then it will leave. And that brings us to the next point here. We have a southern border that is allowing Chinese special forces, members of the special section of the Muslim Brotherhood, Unit 910 from Iran, and all these other, I could go on and on, coming into the United States now. And both you and Ron Paul mentioned this black swan. It does seem like we are being set up for almost like an October 7th inside the United States of America.
Yeah, we're a big country. And I'm going to tell you right now, we have over, what I'm aware of, is we have over 100,000 military-age men that have invaded this country from China alone. I mean, never mind the 12 million or whatever the numbers. I've heard anywhere from 10 to 15 million people in the last 3 years. And some of them are known terrorists. Some of them, many of them are from known terrorist states. Some of them are because countries emptied their prisons, they emptied their insane asylums, and they sent them our way. But we have over 100,000 Chinese military-age men in this country. Where the hell are they? Where are they? What are they doing? Does somebody have them on some military base, or do they have them in some place that they're training them? I don't know. I do know that the Chinese government is enabling the development of fentanyl,
yes,
which is a very, very dangerous drug, and they're using the Mexican cartels, which are part and parcel to the Mexican government. So there you have your Mexican president. So the Chinese is fueling the weapon system known as fentanyl in through the cartels, which are the weapon system firing the fentanyl, and they're firing it into the streets of America. And the results are over I mean, right now we're probably looking at 200,000 killed in action by fentanyl, and many, many more times that are wounded. Okay, it's using military terms like killed in action and wounded in action by Chinese-made fentanyl. Mexican cartel introduced fentanyl on the streets of America, and now we have over 100,000 Chinese military-aged men. Well, I mean, what the hell? And this administration, this is not incompetence, Pat, or
no,
Pastor.
it's intentional.
It's intentional. That's the black swan. I mean, maybe the black swan has already occurred, and we're just like, we're going, holy crap. Nobody thought this. Nobody imagined that. That's what a black swan does. It's an unimaginable thing because we just look around and we go, there's no way that they would do this, but they did.
And I've had people say to me, Matt, is it really that bad? Is this conspiracy? I'm like, 10 divisions of military-aged males coming across the southern border is not by chance. There are people outside acting with intention. There are people letting this happen inside with intention. And we have people sitting back saying, oh, well, maybe it'll all work out. No, it's not going to work out. We have to step up and fight back.
Yep, absolutely. And so my final thing to everybody is I want people to reflect on, and I've studied a lot of presidents, and one of them that I do talk about in my movie at flynnmovie.com is John F. Kennedy. I think Kennedy today would be, he'd be a Republican.
Yeah, he would be.
Hardcore. But, he talked about, it's not what your nation can do for you, it's what you can do for your nation, right? The way that I kind of interpret that is I look at the destiny of America, and the destiny of America is whatever we decide, okay? It's what I decide to do with my life. My destiny will be determined by me, not by you, not by, some city council president or some school board person, right? My destiny is what I decide to do for me, my family, my community, how I get involved. So when you take it to a bigger level, you got a guy like a Donald J. Trump whose destiny could have been something completely different. But he chose to become, and he chose to run for president, and then he won, right? And I was right there with him when he won. And it's like, wow, you're president. This is great. And now you can do great things for our country. And look at what they've done to him. So this is the message that they want to send to people, that if you choose a path that we don't decide, we're going to crush you. And what I want people to do is I want people to stand up and be fearless. And we need a fearlessness in our society today that says, look, I'm a free person. I'm going to decide what I want to do. Now most people don't have the wherewithal, the resources, or the fiber to go and do those things at that level. I'm not asking people to go jump in to the deep end of the pool. I'm asking people to wade into the water right now and do it in a way that you can do. By maybe you go register, you go vote, you get other people to vote. I mean, if that sounds too simple, that's because it is a simple solution, but only Christians can accomplish that in the time frame that we have right now. Otherwise, we're not going to have this country anymore.
That's exactly right. In general, in the last 5 minutes we've got, I want to touch on the book, A Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. What is fifth generation warfare, and how do we wade through it? And how can the average American, because I think sometimes people just look at this as just too big for me. What can I possibly do?
Yeah. Everything we've been talking about is an element of fifth generation warfare in it. I mean, fifth generation warfare is a combination of information operations, intelligence operations, censorship, deception, the irregular kinds of things that we see our government doing, like letting in all these invaders, getting ourselves involved in big wars overseas. And you say to yourself, why is all this happening? And then the fourth column or the fifth column that then imposes ideas on society, and that means from the places like Hollywood, from places like the intelligence system that we have, places like our mainstream media that still has a giant voice and basically parrots lies and deception constantly. So we Americans find ourselves in this swirl, frankly, the entire world right now, but certainly America finds itself in this swirl where we have a really difficult time trying to find the truth, right? And then once I find the truth, and what I tell people is, I don't need, because of my experiences and the blessed life that I've had, I don't need every single bit of information now in my life. I don't. I need probably 65, 70%, because then I can take my life's experiences and add into the rest of it, and I can make good, sound decisions, right? But I think most people, they feel uncomfortable making a decision unless they have all of the facts. And sometimes what people have to do, this is fifth generation warfare. You've got to use common sense. You've got to use just, like the common sense and the values that you were probably taught as a child to say, look, this doesn't feel right. If the old, looks like a duck, sounds like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? I mean, that's just common sense. And I want Americans to understand that Americans, that's a one trait that we all have far better than I think anybody else on the planet, is we just have good God-given common sense, because we look at things and we can be very cynical about them. But right now, I don't want people to be all that cynical. I want people to be realistic, and I want people to go do something about what they see isn't right. I want them to go get involved in their communities. Fifth generation warfare will try to drive us. It will try to cause us to put neighbor against neighbor, or even brother against brother, or sister against sister. That's what they're trying to do. And what we have to understand, those are elements of fifth generation warfare, to try to create a disunification, to create a disunity within our society. And they're going to do it through by saying, orange man bad, he's the worst human being in the world. Donald Trump had one of the greatest economies in the history of the United States of America, and he kept us out of war. It's incredible. And I'm a guy that should have, if I was a vindictive guy, I could be very vindictive to him because he let me go. But I know he let me go too early. But I know why, and that's why I describe in the film, because there were things that he was not aware of, and frankly, to a degree, I was not aware of. I was not, I'm not naive, but I wasn't aware we were that corrupt.
Yeah.
And even though I saw things over my time, there's a level of corruption that is so deep in our government, and we've got to root it out, because it is a rot that will cause this country to experience that arc of history where we don't overcome evil with good for a long, long time.
Both parties, the counterintelligence apparatus, or really the lack thereof, and the intelligence community. And that's that is a big project to undertake, but really that is what's needed. So if we as Americans understand the scope of the problem, we'll step up to the challenge, as you said.
Absolutely. So I'm going to just finish by saying I am so excited about coming out to Bow, Washington, to Cowboy Church in Spokane, Washington, On Fire Ministries. I can't wait to the 24th and the 25th of April. Go to flynnmovie.com. You can buy tickets there. You can see where else we're going to be around the country, and you can also pre-order the DVD at Amazon or Barnes or Target and Walmart. And on the DVD, because it won't be anywhere else, the DVD has additional videos on the DVD. So you won't get it out if you do live streaming, which will be up on the website here shortly. But it's got Tucker Carlson, Devin Nunes, myself, Lee Smith, who's a best-selling author. So there's some really good B-roll footage on that DVD, and it's a great gift to give to people. So anyway, thank you so much. God bless you, and I look forward to linking up here shortly, a couple of weeks.
We look forward to having you up here, General, and I just want to encourage you that there are people that know what time it is. They're awake. They're doing things. We're praying for you a lot. Every day. And so blessings to you and your family, and keep up the fight.
Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless.
General Michael Flynn here on Patriot Radio, coming to Spokane, Washington, On Fire Ministries, April 25th. He's going to be screening his movie in person, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. He also is going to be here as part of America's Future training on the 26th, the evening of the 26th, and the 27th, Saturday. We're going to be training and bringing awareness to child exploitation and human trafficking, but more importantly, what you can do about it to end that scourge here in America. I want to take a moment now and play the trailer so you can pray tonight for General Flynn, and you can pray for all the other people that haven't yet come to the surface, who are behind the scenes right now doing so much work to help restore the republic and to help preserve freedom for the next generation. Go ahead and roll the clip.
President's former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, pleading guilty today to lying to the FBI.
Flynn knew exactly how the system worked. He knew exactly what the intel world had been up to. He understood its funding. They had to get rid of Flynn.
There was a moment where I just felt like I was drowning. And so I'm in there with these other political appointees. They're all supposed to go in there and tell what they believe to be the truth. What they did was they took my assessment and they wanted me to change it. And I was like, I'm not changing it.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
President Obama said, but I do have one specific recommendation. Stay away from Michael Flynn. He's bad news.
Over time, instead of being pounded down below the surface of the ocean, we started to fight. I'm now above the surface.
Courage begets courage, and we are in the fight of our lives right now. We are in the fight for our country. This isn't just the most important election of our lifetimes. This is the most important election in American history. Which path do we choose? Do we take the path talked about by Robert Frost, that somewhere ages and ages hence two roads diverged within a wood, and I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Do we take the road less traveled by as a country, as an individual, as a family? Do we take that road, the hard road, generally uphill, a lot of fight that is involved in it? And America is a nation of fighters. People from every ethnicity. On Fire Ministries, we are the most ethnically diverse church in the city of Spokane. Actually, probably in the region. We have people from Uzbekistan, people from Russia, Ukraine. We've got people from Mexico and South America. We've got people from Africa, Kenya, in the congregation and beyond. And they had to fight for freedom. We have people that used to be in the underground church in the former Soviet Union. They had to fight for freedom. There's always a fight involved in passing freedom on to the next generation. It doesn't pass on by itself. But courage does beget courage. So will you be a part of the movement? GeneralFlynn.com and also FlynnMovie.com/On Fire Ministries. We're going to put that link in the comments. That's where you can buy tickets right now. The tickets are selling quickly. So please don't do the Spokane thing and wait to the last minute and go, oh no, I can't go because there's no more tickets left. Make sure you buy your tickets now. FlynnMovie.com/On Fire Ministries. Also, America's Future. We're going to put that link as well for the event following up the next 2 days, the 26th and 27th. It's all day the 27th, and it's a movie screening on the 26th. It's Into the Light, about fifth generation warfare, one of the best movies I've ever seen on this subject. So you're going to want to be there for both of those things as well. I want to also mention you should follow General Flynn on Telegram and Twitter, at Gen Flynn on Twitter and Real Gen Flynn on Telegram. Now, some of the things that I repost on our real-time intelligence feed on Telegram for On Fire Ministries, you will see that we post from a whole variety of sources, including General Flynn. So right now, as we stand on the precipice of war, World War III, and Putin's warning this morning to Ukraine, changing the verb now from special military operation, I'm sorry, the noun from special military operation to war, and also the fact that a cruise missile was in Polish airspace for 39 seconds. Are NATO now going to come together? Are the NATO countries going to come together and shoot down Russian missiles that come into NATO airspace? Putin is bringing out rhetoric blaming Ukraine. I mean, this can go. This is a very dangerous moment right now between NATO and Russia. Very dangerous moment. So be praying about that as well as we come into this time, because it's going to be the people at the grassroots level, at the local level, who are going to change everything. We're the ones that are going to go talk to our county sheriff and our county prosecutor and say, what are you doing about human trafficking? And they're going to say, well, our budget's too small. And we're going to say, well, I'm going to talk to the county commissioners then. This needs to be a priority to stop human trafficking. And we're going to talk to the prosecutor's office. There need to be more prosecutors prosecuting human trafficking crimes and the crimes associated with it. It's us. If we're not seeing human trafficking prosecuted here, if we're not seeing terrorists, real terrorists, jihadi terrorists, prosecuted here in Spokane County or Kootenai County or wherever else, we're not seeing communist organizations with links to the Chinese government prosecuted here in Spokane County or Kootenai County or wherever else, it's our job to bring it to the attention of our law enforcement and not just go where our law enforcement, our prosecutors should know that. It's our job to bring it to their attention and to back them up when they begin to prosecute these things and these people, and to break up these terror networks, these actual terror networks. I know it may seem a surprise, but there are actual terrorists here in Spokane, Washington, and they're not on the far right. It's the far right who's brought attention to them, and that's why the narrative has come against. This is an intentional plan to try to destroy America. There are forces outside America that have intentionally planned against America. There are forces inside America that have intentionally planned to have America destroyed. Question isn't whether they're planning it. The question isn't whether they're intentional about it. The question for each one of us today, we need to talk about this tonight around the dinner table, is whether we are going to be as intentional preserving this great republic for the next generation. And that now brings us to the end of this great Patriot Radio segment. May God bless all of you. This generation is the greatest one. The awakening is here. Keep up the fight.